Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kathy Bollinger, and I'm Managing Director of York County Community Foundation's Embracing Aging. And we are passionate about creating a York County that is inclusive and respectful of all ages. Too often, ageism and negative thinking threatens how we interact in our communities. It threatens our quality of life that we might have in our communities. And we wanted to do something about that because it can prevent us from having the best aging experience possible. So we're tired of projecting shame on aging, and we're reclaiming it by disrupting the negative thoughts about aging. And we're doing so by hosting a series of online sessions where we have guests come and share tips and ideas and strategies and concerns, and we might share laughters and sometimes tears and whatever it might be to help us all not only better understand how we think about our own aging, but to help us better understand how we think about older adults as a group, and of course, to help us create a community that is welcoming of all ages. So our hope is that you'll take the information that you hear today and apply it towards your own views on your aging, and also help us create a York County that's not only a great place to grow up, but a great place to grow older. You can find out more about Embracing Aging on our website, www.embracingaging.org. And if you are on Facebook, you can follow us at YCCF Embracing Aging. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on our website and through a blog in a week or two. During our first 20 minutes, I'll be asking our guests questions and they'll be responding. And then in the last 10 minutes together, we'll open it up for you to ask questions and also to share comments. You can share comments by typing them in the comment box, or you can unmute yourself and do it that way as well. And with that, I am very excited to introduce today's guest, David Kalinowski. You know, David has been a presence in York County for over 15 years, helping to improve the livability of York County. And I'm really excited to have him joining us. You know, he's been an active advisor to Embracing Aging, especially during the time that it launched in 2013 and the start of its, 2014-15, really early on in it, and has been a fantastic partner to Embracing Aging over the past couple of years. And I'll let you in on a little secret. David is pretty handy with a drill and a paintbrush and a paint roller. He invited me on behalf of AARP to join him at a Team Better block demonstration project in Ohio, where we reimagined what a blighted property might look like to better serve the community. And we worked together on this amazing, huge letter L as part of that demonstration project. And that's where I saw his handy skills. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Kathy. It's great to be here. I wanted to honestly say that I think that painting sort of runs in my blood, passed down from my grandfather. I grew up in a multi-generational household. My grandparents were downstairs, so that was sort of a natural setting to me. So when we talk about things like accessory dwelling units and other types of housing settings, that was a natural for me growing up. So I really valued that experience. But one thing my grandfather always told me about painting was you have to finish into the paint, so that the brush strokes don't show, finish into the wet part of the paint. And part of that, I think that was his philosophy on life also, finish into life, lean into it. I try to use that as sort of a North Star for myself. And I often imagine my grandfather in various settings. And he was mayor of our small town of Troop, Pennsylvania, up in northeastern Pennsylvania, where I grew up. So it was always nice to have all the politicians around our house around election time, because my grandfather was a sign painter. So they'd always be around. He'd paint signs for them. He'd paint homes and things like that. So that was sort of his part-time job, but he taught me that skill, and I enjoy painting. It's sort of relaxing. I didn't remember that we did an L, Kathy, but that was probably one of the easiest letters that we did for that application. I think that's why we chose it. But it's great. It's great being with you, and great being with a lot of folks that I see here that we've worked with, and hope to continue working in York County.
Excellent, and thank you for sharing that. That's very good tips that you got from your relative. So let's go ahead and get started. So in the session description, you mentioned that there are outdated beliefs about aging. So tell us what you mean by that, David, and are there some specific examples that you can share?
Yeah, so we all know people are living longer. Mark works in an environment where he's seeing the 85 plus grouping in um, uh, cohort B, the the entry into the aging system, and with all the demands that they make on services, and all of you see that in your own respective work. But people, as they're living longer, they're living healthier, productive lives also. So it's one of mankind's greatest accomplishments, with technology and whatnot. Yet people's attitudes and stereotypes about aging haven't changed. I remember back when I was in graduate school many years ago and reading books on gerontology, and it talked about people, favoring the youth, the generation then, and not looking favorably upon old age and aging. And I look back on those textbooks and I say, the same can be true today. Attitudes are sort of tough to change, but a lot of it is driven by media. So we see stock images typically capturing the decline, wrinkles, injuries. Story leads always, it's the age and the barriers, not the human potential. We don't really tell the full story within our 30 minutes of news segments on television each night. People are interested in the headline. Look at the current fascination with TikTok with the younger generation as a social media platform with short videos without rich context to them. This day and age, we want fast cars, fast internet, quick reads. So it's easy to label and compartmentalize people. And the recent pandemic, quite frankly, has also sort of exacerbated ageism. It's labeled some of society's oldest members as particularly doomed. Look at nursing homes and all the challenges that not only this state but all across the country have faced with the COVID virus, assisted living residents. My own dad, when I go visit with him, he's afraid to even go outside for walks. He used to walk all the time, and he said, "What? Go outside and get COVID?" So, there are misperceptions, and that labeling, sometimes sticks, and it's further reinforced by media and all of that. We've even heard that type of chatter and labeling in the recent presidential election. Too old, too feeble to govern. So it's still out there.
So 100%. Those examples, we hear them often, and I know that I've shared this before, and many of you know that lots of times embracing aging gets pushback when we talk about our work, and they just don't understand the impact of these outdated views on aging. So 15 years of experience, what impact does this have on individuals from the lens that you have, and also what impact does it have on the community?
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. As we know, life is a series of choices. We can either have people define it for us by default, or we can design it for ourselves. And some of the most persistent barriers live inside of us and our caregivers as well. So ageism really is a strange phenomenon. So if you think about it, it's prejudice against our future self. So when we say, that person there is old, when we get to that stage in life, we don't think that's old all of a sudden. So ageism sort of limits our beliefs. It causes us to discriminate against ourselves, our future selves. And that results in us putting up barriers that can prevent us from embracing really our real possibilities. And then from a community lens, we find that too often stakeholders view older people as burdens on society, not contributors. The community loses because we only see the chronological age, not the wisdom and value older adults offer. And when you look at other societies, such as Japan, they have a more holistic acceptance of aging as appreciating what they call the power of imperfection. And I love that term. And I think we need to allow ourselves to be imperfect, and our own sense of imperfection maybe is what perfection is and should be, because each of us are unique. So basically, as people in some of the other cultures, they tell it like it is, and they're celebrated for reaching that revered status.
Wow. So, David, how can we begin to address this? We've both been working at this now, you for over 15 years, me for 7 years. Many people joining us today have been working at it as well. How do we address it? How do we spark innovation and new ideas to disrupt aging?
Yeah, that's a $1 million.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
begin.
yeah. It's we could be together collectively for eons and maybe not solve that. We can write more books about it, but we all know it's changing the conversation about age and aging in this country. Words do matter, how we use them. We need to revere and embrace authenticity and favor that maybe over perfection. I think it's time to change this stuff around us and look at the bigger picture. We as consumers need to demand what we want from our cars, from our home, our workplace, our doctors, healthcare community, and our communities, and more. We can be that. We can be that example. We can be that spark that gets things going. I know within AARP, we're trying to encourage some new solutions in various things. And just to bring it home to York County, and not only York County, but a lot of other places within Pennsylvania that are basically rural in nature. The pandemic's really highlighted how broadband access in places in the more rural parts of York County have really created an uneven access to learning in our classrooms and unequal access to healthcare. Having greater connectivity in rural areas allows things such as telemedicine visits to occur with our doctors, taking some of the burden off caregivers when they don't have to get somebody ready, put them in a car, drive a half hour or more just to get them to the nearest doctor or healthcare setting. Making it easier for patients of all ages as well as the caregivers. So in that regard, we're looking at supporting legislation that's current to address this, whether it gets handled in this legislative session or not, which ends, at the end of this year. I'm not sure, but we have to find a way to conquer that digital divide so that things like health disparities don't create inequalities in our communities. One also can't underestimate the tremendous economic clout that people 60 and older contribute. Discretionary income and spending, they drive economies, and there's no better group positioned to disrupt the marketplace than our seniors. For this reason, companies like Toyota and Hartford, they've committed millions of dollars. I know just to AARP, there was a grant for like over $4 million to our driver safety program to support innovative technologies, including driverless cars. It will help older drivers and riders remain, safe, independent, connected, and confident as they age. And just as another example, I just wanted to point out again the recent election here and how older voters helped to decide the election. They tipped the election in 2016 as a voting bloc, and it would seem they accomplished the same feat in 2020. 60% of the electorate were over the age of 60. So back in the 2018 midterm elections, there was some big discussion about the 60 plus voting bloc being the deciders. There were headlines about that because they were the ones that were going to decide the next election back then. So I call them sort of the ultimate disruptors. Not only that, but this country just elected the oldest president ever to take office. So I think some of that changes. When we see people in leadership positions, one of the people I'll point to as one of the ultimate disruptors that multiple generations have embraced and are embracing even now after her passing, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I see her as the ultimate disruptor for a lot of reasons, when it comes to women's rights and people wanting to get their picture taken with her. There was the movie was in downtown York theater, here in York. So those are maybe some of the ways to start, but it's really about changing attitudes of the media, even law enforcement, and amongst folks, because when people fall prey to scams and other frauds, romance scams as an example, people blame the victim. So we got to get away from victim blaming and change that narrative. We need to take a look at making sure that's the perpetrator who committed this crime, this fraud, is the one that gets the attention, and not the person who's, and used the word shame early on, Kathy. We got to stop feeling shameful for our imperfections out there.
Mm-hmm. And David, you talked about the economic benefit of older adults, or that they bring to the community. For those of you who might not have heard this statistic, Embracing Aging a couple years ago did a study to quantify the economic impact of older adults in York County, and people age 55 and older contribute almost $1 billion to the local economy. So we certainly want to make certain that we have a York County that is a great place for people to age in their later decades. So speaking of aging in the county, age-friendly communities, David, AARP, as we know, is the entry point for communities wanting to work towards earning that age-friendly designation. So what is it that you want individuals to know about this designation, its value to the community and to them as residents, and what role can they help play in the designation?
Yes, well, first of all, Kathy, congratulations to the York County Community Foundation for submitting the application on behalf of the county to become the 443rd community to enroll in the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities. So AARP combined with the World Health Organization to issue this sort of declaration, and AARP Age-Friendly Network encourages states, counties, cities, towns, and rural areas really to prepare for the rapid aging of our nation's population. We all know the figures that in 10 years from now, 1 in every 5 people in the United States will be 65 or older. So the network really encourages our elected officials, local leaders to focus on and strengthen the features and services that help to make communities livable for residents of all ages. So, and that's from cradle through retirement. We refer to these features and services as domains of livability. And I believe, Kathy, you may have a slide on that if you
do.
Throw that up there. And
can everyone see that? David, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Yes. Yep. So, we refer to, these features and services as domains of livability. So I'll start up in the left-hand corner, and, some of these are pretty common, but it's a way to categorize how it is that people look towards community. And when you're picking up and moving maybe to a new community, you're going to maybe in your mind think of all these different domains. They may not be organized in the same way, but eventually I think you'll give due thought to many of these. So looking at housing, home is where the heart is. Really, it's a central component of livability. Costs, choices, accessibility, connected to health. Housing is so much connected to health status. People like Trent can certainly comment on that. Where people live impacts the health status of folks and social determinants of health, more so maybe than any other domain here. When you proceed to the right on this sort of oval chart here, you're looking at outdoor spaces and buildings. So we're looking at parks and trails, air and water quality, transportation. That's a sort of a no-brainer, but many times communities don't have the connectivity in getting from home to work without maybe parsing out those different modes of transportation. We look at bikeability, walkability, and what are some safe and convenient options for folks, because if it's not safe, they can't get around. If it's not convenient, they won't use it. Communication and information, broadband internet access, we talked about that a little bit already. The next one is civic participation in employment. Many people want to work beyond retirement, and that may be true for various reasons as people go forward. Is there a fiscally healthy local government to sustain jobs, or are people moving out and then moving back to perhaps retire? Voting is part of that, and public service. Resident engagement within their community. How do people feel as if they can become connected and plugged into what's going on? I know the city of York has all these neighborhood associations, and they're probably very good at getting people some not only communication and information, but forming a sense of neighborhood and community, and that's makes for a livable community. Respect and social inclusion. I don't have to tell you, over this past year, all the turmoil cities have gone through and countryside about, respect for each other and appreciation and having meaningful relationships. And that includes multi-generational communities. And of course, you can have multi-generational communities going back to housing if you don't have those facilities built. Health services and community supports. Obviously, you want access to health care and social services. You want access to things like fresh food. You want prevention, access, and quality in your healthcare system. And then finally, social participation. That's inclusion and opportunities culturally. So within the city, we have the Appel Center, we have the York Revolution baseball team, entertainment, arts. All those things come together to make it a more livable community. AARP has a tool to go along with this, and it's called a livability index. So if you go to aarp.org/livable, LIVABLE, you'll be able to see where the livability index is. If you just Google that, you can plug in any zip code or any address in the country. And basically, it's scored along many of these dimensions, many of these domains. So the scores run anywhere from 0 to 100. And a normal community is usually pegged right around 50. And it goes up and down based on various measures, research-wise, that are backed by research, and it gives you that research as well. So basically, just going back, a livable community, is based on all of these different fronts. And the common thread really among the enrolled communities all across the country is the belief that places where people live are more livable and better able to support people of all ages. And local leaders commit to improving the quality of life for the very young, the very old, and everyone in between. So we talk about the concept of 8 to 80. If you build it so that an 8-year-old or a mother with a stroller can get across the street, then it should be safe and secure for somebody in their 80s. Basically, well-designed, age-friendly communities foster economic growth, and I wanted to say that economic growth is not mutually exclusive when it comes to age-friendly communities. When you build and design communities to make them more bikeable and walkable so that you attract people to make your community a destination place, you also spur economic growth, because as you're slowing traffic down, more people are spending time with local merchants. So there is an economic factor to promote there as well.
So David, I can't believe how quickly our time is going. It just seems like every single session we have, the time goes by so quick. And I want to make certain that people have an opportunity to ask questions and also comments. But as they're doing that, and you can either unmute yourself or you can put it in chat, is there anything like a call to action that you would like to leave with anybody on the call today to say, hey, if you could do this, that would help all of us in making York County more age-friendly?
Well, you know what, I would really value, because I know some of the people in here have such strong ties and networks. I'd really appreciate, being able to have a conversation with anybody from any organization to say, how can we partner with AARP going into 2021, knowing that, for us, the first part of our year is probably, again, going to be virtual in nature. How can we work to basically put a a face of AARP in your community. We want to be a participant, not a driver necessarily.
Well, and I would like to ask if embracing aging could be a part of that as well, so that we can all work at getting that age-friendly designation, moving, because we need to hear from residents in our community. What type of housing do you want, need? What transportation concerns do you have? So being able to engage more with actual people who are residents and live through the community, so we can hear your concerns. So with that, let's open it up for questions and comments and ideas. Oh, everyone. What, it's almost 1:30 in the afternoon. Do we need some coffee or a cocoa or something to go ahead, Cynthia, get us started?
Yeah, I'm having my post-lunch, even though it's a good salad, my post-lunch kind of dip. So sorry about that. David, it's great to see you.
You also, always. Cynthia.
So AARP has done a great job of building out these livable communities and working with counties and other types of groups to have these designations adopted. What has been the hardest thing in working with new either counties or groups in getting them to the point of being able to become one of your designated places? And I'm not using the right term, so I apologize.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to almost turn it back to Kathy, because she knows that I've been working on trying to get your county to be more age friendly for quite a number of years. But I will say, I'll answer that, and if Kathy wants to answer also, she can. I think that a lot of people see this as a nice to do, but not a need to do. And I think that we need to be able to pivot that conversation so that people can, and I mentioned before about the economics of it. Sometimes you have to lead with the market and the economics so that some place like a downtown merchants association can value and see the need for bringing more people downtown, and do things like traffic calming or making your rail trail more bikeable and livable. When you have leaders who have a more holistic view of their community, of their state, of their municipality, I think it works. If people are too busy, and I say this because it occurs in every city across the country. They are hard pressed economically for the most part. They're worried about making sure that the garbage is picked up, that snow is plowed from the streets, and all those daily concerns with municipalities that sometimes don't have the wherewithal to, or what they see as the resources in order to build a more age-friendly community. But there's small things that you can do without doing that. So, Kathy, I don't know if you want to answer that.
I'll just add too, it's a 5-year process. So for some, that might seem overwhelming, but it really isn't. And secondly, you don't have to focus on all 8 domains. So sometimes people think, oh my gosh, 5 years, all 8 domains. So sometimes you can start with just a focus on one. And the AARP has really made it easy in terms of the process and the network and the application, in terms of, they've been at this now, what, David, about 5-6 years? You've been the entry point for it. So,
yes.
They've been creating additional tools to help communities do this. And it's been growing in popularity in terms of, just the number of not only communities, but also some states, entire states who have signed on to this age-friendly initiative.
Right. Yeah. The state of New York, the state of Massachusetts. I'd really love to see Pennsylvania designated as an age-friendly state, but I'm not sure. I mean, that's sort of a heavier lift. I think what we need to do is get some real champions who see the value in this, some legislators who see the value of it to help promote it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other thoughts, questions? All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I will be sending over to you the graphic that David has shared with us for livability, and also two websites. The one he already referenced, aarp.org/livable. The other one is aarp.org/age-friendly. David, thank you so very much for sharing and today with us and helping us better understand, first of all, what you see in the work of improving attitudes on aging over your tenure here in York County, but also helping us better understand what it means to be an age-friendly community. A huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. We know that you're probably zoomed out and have a lot of demands on your time, so the fact that you shared 30 minutes with us to learn more about this is very much appreciated. I want to share with you that our next session is on Thursday, December 3rd at 11 o'clock. The title is Just a Regular Guy Talks Aging. So Joel Conway is our guest, and his great-grandmother lived to be age 101. He's offered encouragement to family who have stayed for physical rehab. He's packed senior boxes at the York County Food Bank. He's taken care of a widowed father-in-law, and he visits with friends, parents. And he's going to tell us what all of those have in common and how they impact and inspire his aging. So please join us on December 3rd. And with that, a huge thank you to all of you. We really appreciate you being here today. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.